Chapter 16. A Dull Little Day. Jianran saw Qingyue was so rich. She looked around and asked curiously, "Qingyue, what business did you do in the past?" Qingyue said, "As long as it is a business that makes money, I have in almost all of it." He was telling the truth. Hotel restaurants, real estate, tourism companies, electronic science and technology, etc. The Shengchen Group that made money had dabbled in all kinds of money-making business. Shengchen Groups, and they did very well. Jianran did not know the truth, but she thought that he was perfunctory to her, so she did not have the mood to ask any more. Qingyue was very busy, because after he got into the car, he turned on the computer to process some documents. His phone, which was beside him, did not stop ringing. The car drove for about 10 minutes. He had probably already received more than 10 calls. Qingyue spoke fluent English. When Jianran was in university, she had also passed the level 6 exam in English, but she did not understand Qingyue's business language. She vaguely heard him giving some orders. His words were sharp, and his decision was very accurate. The innovation technology had only developed in these 2 years, and its business had not yet gone overseas. Jianran guessed that Qingyue should be dealing with his own business. About half an hour later, Qingyue finally stopped. He turned his head to look at Jianran. "What are you thinking about?" It was very rare for him to talk to her. Jianran smiled. "I am thinking about what kind of people are in your house." Jianran did not think of asking Qingyue's family before. Maybe it was because he trusted her unconditionally yesterday that she could not help but want to know more about him. Qingyue paused and said, "My elders have grandfather and parents. I also have an insensible sister." When Qingyue mentioned this younger sister, he seemed to clench his teeth. Jianran felt that Qingyue was enduring something. Jianran's interest was piqued when she heard this. She asked again, "Insensible younger sister? Why is she not sensible?" Qingyue frowned and was unwilling to mention it again. They had been registering for almost a month, but Qingyue had never mentioned anything like bringing her to see her parents. Now that she asked, he didn't really want to say it. Jianran did not want to mention her family in front of Qingyue, because something like that had happened at home. Then, why didn't Qingyue want to mention his family? Was it because he did not have a good relationship with his family? Or was it because he had other reasons? Jianran did not want to think in the wrong direction, but she did not believe that there were so many coincidences in the world. Perhaps Qingyue did not want to take her to see his family. After thinking this, Jianran pursed her lips and did not ask any more. After a while she heard Qingyue say, "Jianran, my family is overseas. They will come back in a few days. I will bring you to visit them." Jianran smiled. "I did not mean that." Qingyue asked back, "Then what do you mean?" Jianran was speechless. 2 hours later their car finally returned to where they lived. After getting off the car, Jianran planned to go to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities and ingredients. Qingyue, who was still busy, put down the documents in his hands and got off the car with her. "I will go with you." Seeing that he was so busy, Jianran could not bear to let him go. She said, "Go ahead and do your work. I will go alone." Qingyue looked at her and took the lead to walk in front of her. He also said, "Your husband does not treat it as an ornament." Jianran shook her head helplessly and could only follow. Qingyue took the initiative to push the shopping cart and walked to Jianran's left. There were whispers around. "That man is so handsome, so charming." Jianran could not help but look up at him. She smiled with her eyebrows arched. "Someone is praising you." Qingyue replied with a cold expression, "I do not need them to praise me." Jianran smiled and asked, "Then who do you need to be praised by?" Qingyue lowered his head and looked at her. Jianran's face turned red again. She whispered, "You are really very good-looking. You are the most handsome man I've ever seen." Jianran was telling the truth, but she did not dare to look into his eyes when she spoke, because this man's gaze was too sharp, as if he could see through a person's heart. After a short period of silence, she heard him say, "Yes, I understand." Jianran quietly rolled her eyes at him. How could he be like this? He asked her to praise him, so she praised him, but he only replied with one sentence. After walking around, they went to the respawn area. Jianran chose a green grass fish and prepared to cook a fish that she was good at for Qingyue to taste. She pointed at the fish that she had chosen and said gently, "Master, please help me scoop this one, and then help me slice the fish." The fish seller was a young man. When he saw Jianran, his face turned red. He nodded and then killed the fish neatly. He removed the fish scales and cut the fish. Finally, he took a few bags and put the fish into the bag and handed it to Jianran with both hands. "Take them well. You're welcome to come again next time." Jianran smiled and took the fish. "Thank you." After leaving the fish stall, Jianran walked towards the vegetable area. She had just taken 2 steps when she suddenly heard Qingyue's deep voice. "You are quite popular." Jianran reached out her hand to grab Qingyue's arm and smiled. "Because I am also very outstanding." Qingyue's body slightly stagnated. He pulled out his arm and held her hand. He held her hand and continued to stroll around the supermarket. After buying the necessary goods, the task of carrying the bag after paying the bill, naturally, fell on Qingyue. Seeing that his hands were not empty, but she was incomparably relaxed, Jianran smiled sweetly. She thought that having a considerate husband was really not bad. She also noticed a very moving little detail. Qin Yue did not bring a work phone with him when he came to the supermarket with her. He focused on shopping with her. Along the way, the two of them didn't have any more conversations. When they returned home, Qin Yue put the ingredients he bought into the kitchen. I'll cook with you tonight. Jianran looked at him and smiled. You should be in charge of washing the dishes. Besides, I will only cook 2 dishes. It will be done very soon. She felt that with Qin Yue by her side, it would affect her normal performance. It was better to chase him far away. Qin Yue thought about it and felt that he was indeed not good at cooking, so he still listened to Jianran. Jianran first picked the rice, then put the rice in the rice cooker to cook. After that, she washed the vegetables, prepared the seasoning, and finally made the boiled fish. Other people like to put bean sprouts in the side dishes of the boiled water fish, but Jianran especially liked to add some onions inside. Not long after, the spicy boiled fish came out of the pot. Jianran first tasted it. She felt that the taste was not bad. Then she called Qin Yue, who was still busy with workout, to eat. Because of her previous experience, Jianran prepared a pair of public chopsticks. She took the public chopsticks and picked up some fish and onions for Qin Yue. She blinked her eyes and looked at him. Quickly try it. Do you think it's delicious? Qin Yue looked at the onions and frowned. His hand holding the chopsticks did not move for a long time. Jianran noticed it. She asked nervously, Do you hate eating onions? No. He did not know what he was thinking. Qin Yue did not want to admit in front of Jianran that he was allergic to onions. He remembered that he did not eat the food Jianran gave him last time. She angrily went to her friend's house to stay for the whole night, if he did not eat the food she gave him this time. Thinking of this, Qin Yue raised his eyes and looked at Jianran. Facing her expectant gaze, he did not think too much about it. He picked up the chopsticks and ate. Chapter 17, Call Me Hubby. Qin Yue sat up straight and continued to eat seriously and elegantly as usual. He did not say anything. He did not say whether the food was delicious or not. After getting along with him for a few days, Jianran knew that he did not speak much and did not care about these things with him. The two of them had almost finished eating. Jianran saw Qin Yue's red face and said worriedly, Qin Yue, what happened to your face? It's nothing. Qin Yue got up. I have to go out for a while. I might not come back tonight. Jianran looked at him and said sadly, Then you have to be careful. Qin Yue went back to his room to get a coat and quickly left without saying a word. When he went downstairs, he took out his phone and made a call. Drive me to the hospital right away. On Monday, Qin Yue called to tell Jianran that he had gone on a business trip after not returning for a night. Jianran also had a new project to prepare. According to Zhao Zhongqing, the Starlight's leaders liked the proposal that Jianran made last time. This project was assigned to Jianran, and she had to submit a preliminary proposal within 3 days. She only had a short 3 days. It would not be easy for her to submit a proposal that satisfied them. Jianran was also a person who was very strict with her work. If she directly started working, she would definitely be very dedicated. She would be so busy that she would not even eat. At noon, Wang Weiming walked over and looked at Jianran with some heartache. Jianran, let's go out and have lunch together. Jianran did not even raise her head and said, You guys go. I will go after I finish these things. He had worked with Jianran for 3 years. He knew that this was only Jianran's excuse. So he reached out and pressed Jianran's hand that was holding the mouse. Jianran, let's go eat first, then you can come back and be busy, okay? Jianran withdrew her hand and then looked up at Wang Weiming. Jianran felt that there was something wrong with his eyes. She seemed to have seen some feelings in Wang Weiming's eyes. Jianran's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that there were some things that she had to let Wang Weiming know. She could not let the misunderstanding continue. She pressed the standby button and got up. Let's go. This was the first time Jianran agreed to eat with him. Wang Weiming was secretly happy. He chose a quiet shop and wanted to take the opportunity to talk to Jianran. After sitting down, Wang Weiming acted on his own initiative and ordered a few expensive dishes. He did not ask Jianran whether she liked it or not and looked at Jianran with a smile. Jianran understood, but pretended not to understand. She thought that it would be good if Qin Yue called her at this time. She had just thought of this when Jianran's phone rang. Jianran smiled apologetically to Wang Weiming. Then she answered the phone. Hubby, I'm eating with my colleagues outside. You don't have to worry about me. Jianran, are you showing off in front of me? Ling Feiyu, who was on the other end of the phone, said discontentedly. Jianran smiled even more gently. I know. I will do as you said. I will not eat. If you don't believe me, I will take a photo for you to see. Ling Feiyu and Jianran had been friends for so many years. The two of them were as good as one another. At this moment, Ling Feiyu quickly understood what she meant. Hence, Ling Feiyu also cooperated with Jianran and said, Then you should come back early tonight. I am waiting for you to warm my bed. Jianran changed into a shy smile again. Don't say such nauseating words. Finishing, Jianran hung up the phone, but just as she hung up, another call came in. This time it was her real husband, Qin Yue. Jianran was slightly shocked in her heart. She looked at Wang Weiming and smiled embarrassedly before answering. Hello? Qin Yue's low and sexy voice came from the phone. I asked someone to prepare lunch for you. Why didn't you go over? Jianran could not say that she was already eating lunch. Otherwise, the scene she had just put on in front of Wang Weiming would be exposed. She simply gritted her teeth and said sweetly, Hubby, I will take good care of myself. Don't worry. When Jianran said this, the other end of the phone was silent for a long time. It was so silent that Jianran thought that Qin Yue had hung up. After a long while, she did not hear Qin Yue speak. Jianran secretly felt that something was wrong. She did not know how Qin Yue would look at her. After a long time, she heard Qin Yue's low and deep voice coming from the phone. I can only go back on Thursday. You take care of yourself. Okay. Jianran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, Qin Yue would be back in a few days. When he came back, he should have forgotten about this matter. Wang Weiming had an injured expression on his face when he heard Jianran call her husband. When Jianran hung up the phone, he said, Jianran, you are married? Jianran nodded and said, It should not be strange for me to get married. Wang Weiming could not say a lot of things that he had prepared. He just smiled sadly. I wish you well. Although he was interested in Jianran, he felt that he was not good enough for her. It was a good thing that he comforted Jianran that she had a good husband. Jianran smiled and thanked him. In her heart, she also praised her wit. Before Wang Weiming said what he wanted to say, she let him know that she was married. In the future, everyone could still work as well as before, and it would not be awkward for them to meet. However, that night, Jianran did not feel that she was very quick-witted. When she slept that night, Jianran felt that there was a person sitting beside her. She was originally very sleepy. When she smelled the familiar clean and cool scent of a man, she was instantly scared awake. She sat up abruptly, rubbed her eyes, and looked at the man sitting by the bed in surprise. Didn't you say you'll only be back on Thursday? Qin Yue replied indifferently. I have something urgent to attend to at the last minute. I will fly back to Shaoshan tomorrow morning. His original plan was to come on Thursday, but since Jianran had hinted that she missed him, as her husband, he could not pretend not to hear her. After talking to Jianran in the afternoon, he asked his assistant to book a flight for him for the night. He would fly back to work tomorrow morning. Thinking about the phone call at noon, Jianran blushed and scratched her head. Did you have dinner? Do you want me to cook some supper? It was 8 o'clock in the evening when Qin Yue finished talking about work. After that, he immediately rushed to the airport and took the flight back to Zhengbei at 10 o'clock in the evening. It took him more than 2 hours to fly from Shaoshan to Zhengbei. He arrived at the airport in Zhengbei at 1 o'clock in the morning and then went back home. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. At 9 o'clock in the morning, he still had a very important meeting to attend. The secretary had booked a flight from Zhengbei to Shaoshan at 5 o'clock in the morning for Qin Yue. He was going to leave for the airport in an hour. He was in a hurry. Qin Yue never ate the food provided by the plane, so he hadn't eaten since noon yesterday. He was so busy that he didn't even eat before rushing back because Jianran hinted that she missed him. Jianran wanted to make supper for him because she wanted to spend more time with him. Chapter 18, Waiting for me at home. With that thought in mind, Qin Yue nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you to prepare for me. Jianran rolled over and got off the bed. She took a jacket and put it on. Wait a moment. I will be done very soon. Qin Yue also came to the kitchen. Do you need my help? Jianran looked back at him. Are you hungry? He nodded. I'm hungry. Jianran handed him the side dishes that she had prepared. Then, you will be in charge of washing the vegetables. Qin Yue agreed with appreciation. Okay. When he was washing the vegetables, Jianran quietly glanced at him. He washed very seriously. Because of his attitude, she gave him 99 points. She did not give him full marks because she was afraid that he would be proud. They divided the work and worked together. Soon, a bowl of fragrant mixed vegetable noodles came out of the pot. Jianran placed the bowl in front of him and looked at Qin Yue eagerly. This mixed vegetable noodles is also my specialty. How about you take a look at my craftsmanship? Compared to the chef beside Qin Yue, Jianran's cooking skills were really ordinary, but Qin Yue did not mind. He nodded. The taste is very good. Having received Qin Yue's praise, Jianran smiled happily. She turned around and returned to the kitchen. She then busied herself in the kitchen for a while. Qin Yue finished his noodles and walked in. What are you busy with? Jianran turned around and smiled at him. Didn't you say you would fly to Shaoshan early in the morning? I made some pastries and seaweed rice last night. I steamed them and placed them in a warm lunchbox. If you're hungry on the way, you can eat some. Jianran knew that Qin Yue was working hard to be a good husband. She also wanted to be a good wife, but she did not know how to be a good wife. She could think of giving him anything. What she could not think of, he still had it. So Jianran did some insignificant things for him and worked hard to be a considerate and virtuous wife. Seeing her serious expression, Qin Yue raised his hand and rubbed her head. Thank you for thinking so well of me. You said that husband and wife should take care of each other. Jianran patted his hand off and curled her lips. Don't always rub my head. The way he rubbed her head was the same as how she rubbed Mian Mian's head. She was his wife, and not his little pet. Qin Yue's sexy thin lips slightly raised, and he pulled her into his embrace. Then what about this? Jianran's face instantly turned red. She pushed him in a hurry but was hugged even tighter by him. She even felt that his chest was trembling from holding back his laughter and holding back his thoughts. Jianran bit her lips and lifted her hand to ruthlessly pinch his waist, but this man's flesh was too strong. She did not do anything to him, but instead hurt her own hands. Jianran was angry and raised her head to hit his chest again. She originally wanted to make him suffer a bit. He reached out his hand to pat her head again, like touching a little pet. He even heard his low and sexy voice saying, "Be good, stop messing around." Jianran was a little confused. Was it her who was messing around? Did she make a fuss? She was the one who was bullied very badly. She reached out to pinch him again, but this time he grabbed her hand that was moving randomly. He held her hand in his palm and gently pinched it. "I'm going to set off. You have to take care of yourself at home by yourself." Wait a minute. Jianran escaped from his arms and placed the steamed pastries and seaweed rice into the thermal lunchbox. She then took a bag and put it in. "Take it and eat on the way." When Qin Yue reached out to take the bag, his usually cold eyes were filled with a slight smile, and his voice was very gentle. "Wait for me at home." Jianran nodded with a red face. "Yes." Qin Yue rubbed her head again. "Then I will leave." Jianran sent him out and stood at the door to watch him enter the elevator. The elevator door closed, and Jianran quickly shook her head. She raised her hand to touch her forehead and muttered to herself, "I don't have a fever. That means that what happened just now was real and not what I imagined." If she was not sick, then it was very likely that Qin Yue was sick. It should be because he was sick that he would say something he normally would not say and do something that he would not normally do. After sending Qin Yue away, Jianran no longer had any sleepiness. She might as well get up and run in the morning, then rush to the company in advance. Jianran was busy for half an hour before Lin Mei came to the office. She did not return to her office and went to Jianran's side and said mysteriously, "Jianran, do you know that Ma Donna from the Public Relations Department was fired?" Jianran's heart skipped a beat, and her face did not look good. Lin Mei did not notice and continued, "I heard that she seemed to have used some means to Boss Qin, and it was Boss Qin who personally ordered to fire her." Jianran guessed that Qin Yu must have deliberately let people release this kind of news. He did not want to involve her in this matter. Qin Yu said that he was her backer, so he used his actions to show her. Jianran was very touched about this. However, she could not be happy. It was not that Jianran did not want Madonna to leave the company, but rather that she did not want to leave because of her relationship with Qin Yue. She did not want to publicize her relationship with Qin Yu. It was because she did not want to receive special treatment in the company. She wanted to climb up with her own abilities. And now, things were developing in the direction she didn't want. Lin Mei continued, "People like Madonna really deserve it. Many people in the company are looking forward to her leaving. This time, Qin finally helped everyone get rid of an eyesore." Jianran smiled. "Lin Mei, I don't care whether Madonna goes or stays. I only care about the proposal that will be submitted tomorrow." Jianran did not like to discuss behind people's backs, and she also knew that the workplace was not as simple as what she saw. There were pits everywhere, and it was hard to say who would step into the pit dug by someone. Jianran understood this principle. In these 3 years, her relationship with her colleagues was not bad. But just on the surface, it was just that their relationship was not good. It was not to the extent where they were on good terms. Zhao Jingqing hurried over. "Jianran, how is the preparation of your first draft of the proposal going?" Jianran said, "I will work harder and will definitely be able to chase it out tomorrow." Zhao Jingqing said, "There is not that much time left. The Starlight's manager Lu is rushing to Jingdu tonight. If he did not see your proposal before he leaves, then this project will not have a chance." Jianran bit her lips and said, "Manager, I will try my best to hand this proposal to him before I get off work." Zhao Jingqing looked at the time. "If you need help, ask Lin Mei and Wang Weiming to help you." Manager Lu's flight was at 9 o'clock in the evening. He had to leave the company and go to the airport before 7 o'clock. Before that time, hurry over and personally pass the documents to him. Jianran nodded. "Okay." 3 days was originally short, but now it was shortened to 1.5 days. This was equivalent to a lot of pressure, but Jianran did not shrink back. In her view, as long as she worked hard, there was no work that she could not complete. Furthermore, this time it was Manager Lu from the Starlight who appointed her to be in charge of this project, and she had no reason to decline.